All right, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hello, Mr. Ray.
Good evening. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Ray.
Good evening. All right, so I'm just going to be going through your names. Just write down your names of who is present. So, good morning, Dina. And good morning, Justine. I'm saying good morning. Good evening. It's probably better to say good evening. And good evening, Jacob. And good evening, Maria.
Good evening.
Good evening. And good evening, Susanna.
Hello.
And Clemente, I meant to say welcome back last time you were in class. I'm glad everything went well.
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's
That's good
good.
to hear. And you're obviously feeling okay since you're in class.
Yeah.
That's really good. You had a great doctor.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And good evening, Salvador.
Good evening, Mr. Ray.
Good evening. And good evening, Norma.
Good evening.
Good evening. And good evening, William.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Mr. Ray, are you
Yes.
breaking? Is somebody else breaking? I can hear you like, or is it
Well, I'm not
just me?
talking straight. Let's see. Can you hear me clearly right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. So probably just because I'm saying good evening and then moving on. All right. Good evening, Alma.
Good evening, Mr. Ray.
And good evening, Raymond. All right. And Dorcas is still connecting there. Good evening, Sergio.
Good evening.
And good evening, Marisol.
Good evening, Mr. Ray.
Good. All right. It's good to have all of you guys here this evening. And hopefully everyone's safe and sound. So we're just going to jump right into it because we have about a month or so left. And so we really want to make sure we get the foundations of geometry down, because once we do, it makes it easier to move faster in geometry. And so any questions from anything that we've covered so far?
No, I think I got it on my behalf, Mr. Ray.
All right, that's good. Okay, I believe we ended on number 9 yesterday, and we had started doing Tuesday rather. We started doing equations, I believe. How far did I get in equations? Or did I start it?
I don't think you did.
Only one problem.
I thought I started it. I thought I showed you guys. Let me show you this. I thought we went through here. Didn't I do this with you guys?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, I did this, and then we talked about the order of operations, right?
yes.
And then doing the order of operations backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then I did like 1 or 2 problems with you, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I sent you some worksheets.
Yes.
Did anyone try the worksheets?
Order of operation.
Yes.
I sent that, and I thought I sent an equation one as well.
I didn't
You
get to that
sent
one.
like 3 of them.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Just gonna open it up real fast. Yeah, so I sent the order of operations and factoring and distributed property. Okay, so I didn't send any of the equations yet. So I'm gonna send you guys some of the equations right now, so you have it already. So you should see it pop up really soon. All right, so this is the first one on solving.
Mr. Ray, what problem are we doing?
Right now, I'm just sending you worksheets right now.
Oh, okay.
And also this one. So if you look in your Remind, you'll see 2 worksheets right now, just one that I'm sending right now. And the other one is coming right now. So you should see 2 worksheets in your Remind app.
Mr. Ray, good evening.
Good evening, George.
Yeah, I'm just back from work now.
Oh, okay, good to have you then.
Thank you.
All right, so I sent those 2 worksheets in there and had started talking about how to solve. I'll do it one more time. Remember, we did the order of operations first. Any questions with the order of operations worksheet?
No.
Everyone thinks they're pretty okay with that?
No, I'd like to hear a refresh.
All right, we do a quick refresh on that with like one of the problems
Thank you.
that were given. And I'm just gonna reshare to that. All right, I think I did number 2 and number 6, I believe. So let's look at number 4. All right, so I'll do number 4. All right, so what are the order of operations?
Parentheses first.
Right, do the parentheses first. So what would be our first step with number 4?
Subtract, no, the division.
No, well, yeah, we could go in there. So we could do inside of the parentheses. So here and here. So we want to work inside of there first, both of them. And we can follow suit. The next thing after parentheses is exponents. There's no exponents inside of the parentheses. And so there's a division, so we could do that. What's 24 divided by 6?
4.
4.
4. So we're gonna have 4 squared out there and a subtraction sign, and 10 plus 7 is
17.
17. So we got 17, subtract 4 squared. Now what do? Do we subtract and then square, or do we square and then subtract?
Square.
Where?
All right, so
Square.
17 subtract 16, and our answer then would be
1.
1. All right, so that's the order of operations. And remember, I think this one actually does the steps for you. Yeah, it has the steps below. So if you ever got stuck, you could go over it. All right, and that's literally it. Just make sure you follow parentheses, the order as was shown in the PowerPoint. Did that help?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Mr. Ray, when we have a variable, how do we do that? Let's just try one example with variable inclusive.
Let's see. Did I send one of those? No, I didn't. All right, so a variable would be if we had one.
Yeah.
So let's say we had 3x plus 2x, and with a variable, you don't really get it too often. So, you know, these are kind of just what ifs, but this is just an example. Most times you won't really run into this. 6. I'm supposed to say 6x squared. All right, so if we were to simplify this, that's a subtraction sign. Supposedly, my left side of the screen is really starting to go. All right, so that's 6x squared minus 2 times the quantity 3x plus 2x, and then that quantity is squared. And let's just throw in something else. Plus 4x squared. Okay, so if we were to simplify this, what would we do first?
Parentheses.
All right, and what's inside of the parentheses for the first one?
The
Eddie,
4x squared.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, you could do that one on the side, but what can you do? Can you do anything inside of those parentheses right now?
3x plus
3 plus
2x.
2.
All right, so we could add inside of the parentheses first. So if we rewrite that, that's 6x squared, subtract 2 times 3x plus 2x would be 5x, and then squared plus 4x squared. Okay, what would be the next thing to do?
The exponent.
Okay, so if you do the exponents, is there anything we can do with the first term? No. How about the second term? Yes, what would that simplify down to be? So that square is on the outside. And just like with distribution, you technically distribute the square into each one. So you're going to do 5 squared, and also you're going to do x squared as well. So 5 squared is 25, and x squared is x squared. And then the same thing happens over there. It's 4x squared, and just so that you understand what that really means, it's literally saying 4x times 4x. And that's why you bring the square into the 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. So instead of having to write all that, we could just say 4 squared is 16 and x squared. Okay, so we've done that step. Now, what would be the next step? Your mics are muted just in case you're trying to talk. All right, the next step, we've done all what we can inside of parentheses. We've done the exponents. So what would be next?
The 2 times 25 x squared.
Right, so that's going to give us 6x squared minus 50x squared plus 16x squared. Okay, and then the last step, we just have to collect like terms, which is addition and subtraction. And so 6x squared minus 50x squared will give us negative 44x squared plus 16x squared. And then we can combine those together. If we add 16x squared to a negative 44x squared, that's going to take us down to negative 28, I believe, x squared. Yeah, and that would be the final answer, negative 28x squared. All right, just using the order of operations. All right, any questions with that?
Yeah, I was thinking my own solution, we're supposed to have done the addition before we subtract.
Say that again?
We're supposed to have done the addition, that is 50 plus 16, then subtract 6.
Yeah, you could technically do that if you do the negative 50 plus 16. With an addition and subtraction, I said that before, it's not as strict as the multiplication or division, as long as you do it right. But it's best to just stick with the order, that way you don't mix it up here. Most people who try to say, you know, they don't want to do that, they end up mixing it up with multiplication and division. Because you're trying to be tested, just stay consistent, left to right. All right, so we're going to move on from there. We have a good bit to cover, so if you follow those instructions, it doesn't matter what they give you. It doesn't matter how difficult it looks. Just follow the steps. Don't make up or create your own pattern. If you do that, you're going to go off topic. These patterns have been proven time and time again. So, you know, if you want to pass this test, make sure you understand the order of operations. and you're good to go. Now, because the order of operations will always appear, you're constantly going to be doing them from this point on. All right, so what we're going to look at, let me just let Dorcas back in. What we're going to look at now, just want to review how to solve an equation. So remember, the order of operations is just like your regular travels. It's like you going to work. But when you solve, you're backtracking. You're trying to go the opposite direction. And I was saying that yesterday, if you're traveling to LA area and you're supposed to go like 10 and then 605, etc., you head west and then you head south. Well, if you do the opposite, you're going to head north and then east, but you go the same amount. And so because of that, you do the same concept, right? Algebra, math, all of it is built off of common sense, off of observation of what we see. And so the same way with the simple things in life, we backtrack. In order to solve an equation, we'll do the same thing. We're going to do the opposite. And if we do the opposite, we're going to start at the weaker operations and work our way backwards. Okay, so with that, let's go to the worksheet that I sent. And we're going to start off here with number 3. Of course, I'm not going to do all of them. I'll save some for you to do. And number 3 is a little bit easier than the other ones there. All right. Does anyone know how to solve for x?
So I've not done this.
What 3 you talking about?
Yep, number 3.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, what will we have to do?
You minus you add 7 to both sides.
All right, we start at the weaker operation, and the weaker one is subtraction. But remember, we're doing the opposite. So yes, we're going to add 7. And what we do to one side of the equation, do to the other. So that's correct. Now what do we do?
We make x, we want to make x stand by itself.
Okay, so right now, if we did everything, my left side is really going. That's going to be 9x equals to 0. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. And how do we get x by itself then?
We divide both sides by 9.
Right, we do the opposite operation. The opposite of 9 times x will be divide by 9. And what you do to one side of the equation, you will do to the other side of the equation. And so x would be equal to 0 divided by 9, which is just.
Mr. Ray, I have a question to ask.
Okay.
You talk of the weaker side. I don't know. 9x minus 7. How do we know that 7 is the weaker side?
Because of the order of operations. The order of operations, we stated that we start here, and we say that's the stronger one, and we work our way down. So that means the weaker operation would be addition or subtraction. So we just figuratively say, instead of starting at the stronger operation, which is the parentheses or grouping, we're going to start at the weaker way and work our way up. So we're doing the order of operations backwards.
So we start with addition and subtraction first.
If that's there. If it's a different operation, then you start with whatever is the weakest in terms of going backwards with the order of operations. All right, let's try another one. I'll try to see if I could, yeah, number 9. So we're going to try number 9. See if you could get that answer by yourself using the same techniques. Hopefully everyone has written down the order of operations. Remember, you're working your way backwards in terms of where to start, but then as you start, you do the opposite operation with the same number. What you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other until you get x by itself or whatever variable you're looking for. So go ahead and try to see if you can get that answer.
Do we send in our answers or just say?
Yeah, you can send your answers in the chat like we normally do. All right, so far I only have one answer. And since it's a private answer, that is correct. Okay, 2 answers. Okay.
Mr. Ray, I'm going with the second one, not the first one.
Yeah, I had already sent the response, but yeah, that's correct. The second one. Okay. So I only have 2 answers in, and this one's a little bit easier. We do have to get to those more difficult ones. So if you do have an answer, but you're afraid to send it, just send it. Send it privately. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this one. Is anyone having any troubles with it?
Yeah, Mr. Ray, I'm lost
Yes,
because
I
the
am.
first one I didn't succeed in getting the right answer.
Okay, let's go ahead and start this one then. So the first thing you want to do is know where to start. So how do we know where to start?
The weakest.
Weakest operation. So
Weakest
there's 2
operation.
operations here.
Okay.
What operation is happening with the -9 and the x?
Multiplying.
Multiplying. We learned that when we first started algebra. And I said it's really important to know that. And what is the second operation?
Addition.
Addition. So there's only 2 operations there. And we're going to start with the weakest one. That's correct, Marisol. So we're going to start with
Addition.
the 1, right? The addition of the 1. So we know we're starting here. Now that we know where we're starting, we now need to know what to do. So remember, the whole thing we're trying to do is get that x by itself by basically backtracking. And so initially, with the order of operations, I would multiply first, I'll say 9 times whatever the x is. Then last, I would do add 1. But now that I'm solving, I'm backtracking. So instead of adding 1 last, I'm going to start with the adding 1. But because I'm doing the opposite thing, I'm going to subtract 1. Just like if I was traveling north and then south. If I went 20 miles north and then 20 miles west, then in order to go back, I'll do 20 miles the opposite direction, or -20. So that I go -20 east and then -20 north, if that makes sense. So that's why we want to know where to start, by just understanding that the last thing that we would have done was +1, so that when we backtrack, the first thing that we're going to do is start with the +1. but because we're backtracking, opposite sign. Same number. So that would be subtract 1. Now the thing is, come on. All right, my left side is like really going, so I'm going to have to scroll it down to about here, and then I could possibly write. So the opposite of adding 1 is subtracting 1. What is subtracting 1? And what I do to one side of the equation, I'll do to the other, because you want to keep that equation balanced. The ones will cancel out. That's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is to cancel that. And we're left with negative 9x is equal to negative
81.
2. Sorry, thank you. I don't know where I got the 2 from. Negative 81. Now what do we do?
Divide since you're multiplying.
Right? The opposite of multiplying is divide, and divide by the same
Number.
And what is that number?
9.
Not just 9, but
9x.
negative 9.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, so negative 9, and what we do to one side of the equation,
We do it to the other side.
we to the other side. So we divide that by negative 9. Right, the negative 9s will cancel out. And I'm going to have to write the rest up here. X will be equal to negative 81 divided by negative 9. And remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So in reality, you're just saying 81 divided by 9. And what will that equal?
9.
9. And that's the answer. Now, if you were to substitute x equals to 9 back in there to check your answer, you would have negative 9. And when you substitute, you replace, just like you would in sports. You substitute on a tire point guard for another point guard in basketball. They don't run next to each other on the court. One of them comes out and the other one replaces. So if I'm saying x equals 9, then wherever I see a 9, I could put the 9 back in. And so I substitute the 9 back in there to see if this is true. And this is where you see the order of operations. Now, instead of starting at 1, we start at the stronger one, because we're doing the opposite thing now. Negative 9 times 9 is negative 81. And negative 81 plus 1, I can barely write up here anymore, equals to negative 80. So that checks out. So we call that the check. So you can always check your work to see if it's correct once you find the solution. All right, so that's our answer. X equals 9. Any questions regarding that? All right.
Yeah, it's still not, it's not so clear.
All right, let's do it one more time. I'll do it
For one like this,
Which one?
like number 9, to backtrack,
Okay.
all that backtracking.
Yeah, you're just basically doing the opposite. So everything is the opposite. So let me ask you this. Let's say you walk out your door and you go 10 feet forward, right? And let's say you can only follow those directions. You can only go like up, right, left, down, like only 4 directions. You can't do anything diagonal. So you go out your door, you go 10 steps forward, and then 3 steps to the right. How do you get back?
Just the complete opposite of it.
And what would be that if you went 10 forward, 3 right? So I've been
do
10 forward.
3 left and 3 back and 10
That's
back.
that's literally what we're doing.
I understand the principle, but once it comes to applying it into this, because can you re-explain it by
Sure.
by
I was gonna
solving
do
it?
it. I was gonna do it from scratch, but I really want to stress that part because
No, yeah, I completely understand that part, but once it comes to applying it into the equation,
right. So
it's just, yeah. But
So-
can we do it again?
yeah. So hold on real fast. One thing I want to really get through to everyone is what are the opposite operations. So
Okay.
just like how we said that was 10 forward, we could say that's 10 plus, right? Forward
Okay.
meaning plus, and to the right we could say 3 plus. So when I come backwards, what operation would I say there?
Minus 3.
Minus 3. And when I come back down, what would I say?
Minus
Minus
10.
10.
Minus 10. Let's change it some more. Let's say instead of addition and subtraction, I said I should say it's multiplication. Let's say I said times 10 and then times 3. Then how would I get back?
We divide by 3.
Divide by 3 and then
We divide by 10.
divide by 10. Now, generally, if we were just to try to do this, the first thing we would do would be to multiply by 9. That's literally if we follow the order of operations.
Okay,
The
yeah.
second thing we would do would be to add 1.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're about to solve, we're not going to start with the first thing. We're going to start with the second thing. So that's where we're going to
Yes.
start from, just like we did here. This was first, the 10, and then second. When we go back, we don't start with the 10.
Now we start with the second.
Start
Yes.
with the second one and work our way back. But when we do that, we do the opposite thing with the same number. Well, it's the same thing with solving. We would normally start here, then here. But now that we're solving, we're going to start here and then here,
Yes.
just like we did if we backtrack. But we have to remember that instead of going +1 forward, we're going to go backwards. So
Backwards. Yeah.
-1.
-1.
But because this is an equation, because we've set it equal to something else, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side.
To the other.
And the reason why, it's once we make an equation, we've set it equal to each other. It's kind of like a seesaw, teeter-totter, whichever way you call it. If I put a 50-pound child here, what's going to happen?
It's going to tilt.
It's going to tilt. It will no longer be equal.
Stable or equal.
So
Yeah.
in order for me to keep it equal, well, I have to put a 50-pound child on that side. So it's the same premise with the equations. Because we've set it equal to something, what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other side.
Okay.
All right? So once we do that,
And when you say other, we're talking about what's after
the
equal,
equal sign.
because I was when I was trying to solve it, I did -1 underneath the +1, and then I did -1 underneath the -9x.
Right, so
That's
it's
not-
on either side of the equation. Remember, the equation is separated by the equal sign.
Okay.
So we call it equation, so it means equal, what's equal to. So the equation means the equal sign is separating. So when we say on one side of the equation, it means on the other side of the equal sign.
Got you. Okay.
All right,
it goes
so
to
what
that
we do
side.
to one side of the equation, we do to the other side of the equation.
Okay.
That keeps it balanced. On the left side of the equation, it cancels out.
Cancels.
That's the whole reason why we're doing it. So
Okay.
that becomes -9x equals to -80, subtract -1 is -81.
Okay.
Now that we've done that, we
equals
have one more operation. Just like we went
Negative.
3 backwards, now we're going to go 10 down, right? So what is the opposite of this operation? That's multiplication, right? So what's
Over-
the opposite of multiplying?
Can we go back one step, Mr. Ray?
Yeah.
So once we canceled -1, +1, and -1, we were left with -x equals. And what did we do over here? Because they're equal negative signs, they add up. We add them. And we ended up with -81.
Right. Like a negative
Okay,
$80
gotcha.
in debt, you owe someone else $1, so yeah, 81.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yep. Thank you.
All right, so
Okay,
we have
yeah.
now -9x. And what operation is that again?
It's a multiplication.
So what would be the opposite of that?
We would divide that.
But we remember, just like if we went 10 steps forward and we go 10 steps backwards, we divide by the same exact number,
Okay.
-9.
Got you.
And because it's an equation, what we do to one side of that side that's equal, we must do to the other equal side because they're
Perfect.
equal. And that's why we say what we do to one side of the equation, we do to the other. Right, so those will cancel on the left. That's the whole purpose every time. And so x would be equal to -81 divided by -9.
Okay.
And two negatives, hopefully everyone remembers the rules of integers. When you divide two negative numbers, they become
a positive.
So 81 divided by 9
That's
gives
9.
us 9. And
That's
that's how
awesome.
we solve.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, everybody, but
No. I'm pretty sure other people had the same question. That's why I kept asking any questions, because I know when we get to solving equations, it should be questions.
Last class, I got so frustrated. I was hardly paying attention because I felt I was falling so far behind. It was not nice.
Ask questions. If you don't ask, I'll keep on going.
No, but thank you. Appreciate
You're
it. Thank you.
welcome. And I'm pretty sure someone else is like, thank you, Jacob. I'm so glad Jacob asked that question because I didn't know either.
I hope so. I needed it so bad, but cool.
I did.
See, somebody just said they did, right?
Okay.
Who's thankful that Jacob asked that question?
Me too.
Thank you. That makes me feel way better.
I
Yeah,
am.
see?
Jacob,
that's-
can you repeat the
Jacob.
question? Because I couldn't hear it.
I got confused where it says minus 81. I thought it would have been negative 79.
No, because remember, and I'll say this to everyone, remember I said to you guys, go back and look at the integer chapter because you're going to constantly need that. Remember, if integers, we're saying negative 80, subtract 1. So think about this. If you owe someone $80, then you're like, man, I need some more money. Can I borrow another $1? How much do you owe them?
81.
81. You took another $1 away from you technically, but you've gone deeper into debt. And that's literally what that's saying. Negative 80, subtract 1, literally means that you're going down. Remember with the thermometer, I used to use the thermometer a lot. If you're at negative 80, below 0, and you go down 1 more, then how far do you go down to? Negative 81. You went down, you dropped down 1 unit to negative 81. Now, if push comes to shove, remember, for the majority of the tasks, you could use your calculator. No one's stopping you from taking out your calculator and saying negative 80, subtract 1. That way you can know for sure what answers you get. Most problems in the algebra actually come from the arithmetic from unit 1. Because with algebra, it's not that much rules. Most of it is based off of unit 1, and that's why in unit 1 I was stressing you have to make sure you understand fractions and division and the integers, because algebra is built off of that. It's just literally just putting x's on top of what you already know.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Because I was trying to go back over the videos that you had made available for us. So after the end of this class, this video will automatically will be added onto the list of the videos.
So what happens, it takes about an hour for it to process. Once it processes, I upload it right to YouTube, and that takes about 30, 40 minutes, depends.
I tried watching some of the prior classes to try and get a hang of it, but still, it's it was a bit rough, but thank you.
You got it this time, and persistence, that's what you want, persistence. Yeah. All right, let's try it again. All right, we're gonna look at one that's similar to that. Hopefully I have another one that was similar. I don't wanna step up yet, and I don't wanna do them all. Well, that was the last one that was similar to that. So I'll make up one right here. I was thinking about putting fractions, but let me not do that yet. So 5x subtract 3 equals to, let me make it easy. Negative 18. That shouldn't be too hard. So remember, you want to know where to start, and then you're backtracking. So go ahead, try that, and see what answers you guys get.
I get stuck. Boom. So me toca que
Mr. Ray, I sent you my answer. I don't know if it's correct.
Okay. Okay, I have a variety of answers here, it looks like. Okay, let me just write who is correct here.
Cancela. 3 por 5, 15. X igual a menos 3. A ver si es cierto.
Is he right?
Yes.
I sent 2. Hopefully one of them is right.
I saw one. I didn't see the second one. Oh, okay. I see them both now.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes.
Told you got it. Just got to believe in yourself. That's everyone, too. Just do not convince yourself that you can't do it, right? A lot of times we're like, man, I can't. I'll never get this. Never say that. I don't know if you guys remember the American tale, never say never. That's correct. All right, I have a good bit of correct answers there. A few, just the signs. Just be careful with your signs. Remember, Unit 1, lesson 3, I think it is, talks about the integers. And we spent a good bit of time on the integers, and I had said before, you will see the concept of integers come back again and again and again. So, integers can be confusing, but normally, if you think about integers with money, most people are mathematicians when it comes to money. You know, you're not going to get scammed rather. And so most people can handle integers, assuming money comes into the scene.
Mr. Ray, have you seen my answer? Have you seen mine?
Yes, actually I'm typing everyone, so I'm typing to you now. And I like this. I have a lot of answers popping in. So if I don't get to you right away, it's because I'm typing someone else at the time.
More.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start this one. Some of you, a good bit of you got the answer correct, which is good. So where do we start with this one?
At the weakest operation.
All right, and which one is that?
Minus
Negative
3.
3.
Right, so we're going to start there. And what should we do once we know where to start?
Minus 3.
Well, we're not going to minus 3. We are
We
going
do
to
the opposite of it.
opposite, and the opposite of it is addition, right?
Addition, yes.
One side, you do the other.
Right? So we add 3 on the other side of the equation. And remember the equation, as we learned on Tuesday, is separated by the equal sign. All right, so what happens with those 3's?
They cancel.
They cancel. And I'm left with just 5x on the left side of the equation. And what's negative 18 plus 3?
Negative 15.
Negative 15.
Negative 15. Be careful here, because if you use the same sign, you might get negative 21. And then you're going to get negative 21 divided by 5, and that's going to give 4.2. Negative 4.2.
So can you explain that part? Because that's where I get confused.
What part?
Negative 18 plus 3.
Okay, that's the part on integers. So once again, this is for anyone who's confused on that. You want to first, before I answer it, you want to first make sure that between now and next week, Tuesday, you're practicing Unit 1, lesson 3 on the workbook and the student book. You have to master integers. Now, to go over what we're doing here, if we were to use a thermometer, and this was 0 and this was -18, what does +3 mean? -18 means 18 degrees below 0. +3 would mean there's a 3-degree increase, which means I'm going up. And if I go up 3 units from -18, where would that land me?
-15.
-16, -15. 1, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I get it.
Right? And so that's why I said to you guys when we did integers, if you weren't, Maria, I'm not sure if you were with us at the beginning of the school term, but I told you guys 2 ways to really remember how to add and subtract numbers in integers: money and the thermometer. If you do either one, it makes it easier to understand which direction to go. But most people will mess up here with the signs. So be careful, it's the opposite sign. Many people, a very popular mistake, and GED capitalizes on that, they would have the mistake in the multiple choice. So if you make a mistake and put negative, they're gonna have that mistake in there to choose from. And sometimes they put it as A. And people are like, oh, there it is, right. And they keep moving. And then they're like, I did well. And then they get the score and they're like, what happened? And that's where you get discouraged and you're like, man, math is not for me and blah, blah, blah. And you don't want that happen. All right, so now that we're here, 5x equals -15.
That was me on Tuesday.
Yeah, if you get discouraged, just remember there's always the next day. All right, so we have 5x equals -15. What do we do next?
Divide.
Divide, right? By 5. And what we do to one side?
Do to the
other.
Do to the other. You guys sound like you're teaching me. Now what do we do? 5x over 5, what happens there?
Cancels out.
Cancel.
Cancels out. We're left with just
X.
x, and x would be equal to
-3.
-3, because -15 divided by 5 is -3. And that's your answer. And you can always check your answer by substituting it back in. If x equals -3, this is our check. If x equals -3, instead of writing x, I could write -3. Remember, I put parentheses when we deal with numbers. So 5 times -3 instead of 5 times x. Subtract 3 should give me -18. 5 times -3 is -15. Subtract 3 will give me -18. So that means my answer is correct. I know for a fact it's correct. Right? And so that's how you do that. Now,
Mr. Ray,
yes.
why isn't -3 on the 15?
Say that again.
Why is it a -3 on that 15? Take away 5 isn't that 10 on the right side? You know
Oh,
how you have
that's a
-15?
3. I guess I don't write too neat, but that's a 3.
Yeah, but on the 15, it says -15 and then it's a 5, and then you put
dividing 5 by 15.
Oh, okay.
That's how he got
Dividing.
3.
Oh, you're talking
Okay.
about here. You said when you said the right, I thought you meant the green stuff.
Yeah, no. The -15.
Yeah, that's division. Remember,
yes.
fraction bar is division.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
where I got confused. That's why I said 10.
Yeah, that's division. So -15 divided by 5.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, now we need to step it up a bit, and we're going to look at number 8 since we're already here. Any ideas based off of what we have already learned? Remember, everything that you learn comes back. So how could we solve number 8 based off of what you have already learned?
We'll multiply the 2. We use,
Right.
2 with the one in the parentheses.
Okay, what would that look like?
That would be 2n plus 10.
Right, so 2 times n is 2n, and 2 times 5 is 10. And now we're back to something like that, something easier.
Oh,
so go
wow.
ahead and finish solving that for me.
Okay. 2. entonces. Me queda, se cancela. Aquí me queda 2 bien. Menos 12.
Mr. Red, I sent you my answer. Can you check it?
Okay, I didn't blink.
Uh,
Oh, 2 of them. Oh, I don't even know. Hold on, let me do it in my head. Okay. Yes, Dorcas, that's correct.
menos 6.
In my two, Mr. Ray.
Okay, I'm writing back. I got a few in just now.
Mr. Ray, you see my own?
I'm working my way down there. Had a good bit of answers come in.
Pretty sure.
Okay, hopefully I responded to everyone that sent in. If I didn't, just let me know. All right, those who are finished, and if I said you were correct, go ahead and try number, is one that's similar to that somewhere. Oh, number 12. So if you're finished, if you have the worksheet in front of you, try number 12 if you're finished. But I'm leaving it up for anyone who doesn't have it. So if you have the worksheet, try number 12.
Mr. Ray, can you move it up? I don't have the worksheet in front of me.
Okay, I didn't want to do that unless you just write it down real fast. I didn't want to leave it up for other people.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if I can get both of them in there. Hold on. About right. Yeah, there we go. That's number 12 right there.
I can't say. Can you move it a little bit up? You said number 12, right?
Yeah, you might have your thing in the way. You could click it and move it. You might have something blocking it, like the video camera or something, or the chat box.
I already moved it. Right now it's okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start number 8. I got a good bit of answers in that were correct. And remember, once you get here, you want to start with the weaker operation. So you're starting at that 10. You do the opposite operation of that, which is subtract 10. What you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side of the equation. So those 10s cancel. On the left, you end up with 2n. And on the right, -2 subtract 10 is going to give -12. Once you're there, the operation that's happening between 2 and the n is multiplication. So the opposite is division. And you divide by the same number. And what you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side of the equation. The 2's will cancel, and you're left with n is equal to -12 divided by 2. That's going to give -6. Not +6, -6. You can always check your answer. -6 plus 5 is -1. And -1 times 2 is -2. So that's the answer, -6. Any questions with number 8?
No.
All right. There are no other questions. I'm going to scroll down so I can look at number 12 clearer. I'm about to erase this. Is anyone copying number 8?
Yeah, I'm copying.
Okay. All right, I got some answers in. William, did you send in 2 answers or?
No, for number 12, it's whatever you.
The last number?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
12 answer.
Oh, you're putting 12 and then the answer. Cool. I got you now.
Cool, thanks.
All right, well done.
Mr. Ray, I kind of fixed my answer. I forgot to put the negatives.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. I literally just sent, like, when I pushed enter him and you started, so. But yeah, that's correct. I'm glad you noticed it before I sent it. Okay, has everyone copied that? George, did you finish copying number 8?
I'm through here, I'm copying. I've copied.
You finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay. All right. And here's number 12. Now, for time's sake, because I do want to get a bit further than the speed we're moving, I'm just going to go ahead and say what that answer is. And hopefully you can catch up before I go over it. The answer should be -17. So be very careful of signs. I had a few people send me in 17 and left out the negative. Be very careful of the signs. They are completely different numbers. Imagine 17 was in thousands of dollars. And you had in the bank 17,000 and you woke up and saw -17,000. That's a difference of $34,000. That means you lost $17,000, and then the bank is talking about you. Not only have they lost your $17,000, they're saying you owe them $17,000, right? So be very, very careful of the negatives. All right, let's go over how to do this one. Anyone wants to walk us through how to do this?
What number? Which one, Mr. Ray?
Number 12.
Yes.
So you multiply negative 12 with x,
right?
and so that's negative 12x
Plus 5.
minus 60.
There we go, minus the 60, and on the left side stays the same, 144. Then what do we do?
Yeah, where do we have the 60?
Because negative 12 times 5 is negative 60.
Negative 12. Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
why I
that's
get
why I
lost.
draw those lines, those markers to remember that you have to distribute. Okay, what would be the next step?
And then positive 60.
All right, start at the weaker operation and,
Do you do it on the other side?
right, both sides of the equation.
Mr. A,
Yes,
for the first part, we multiplied negative 12 times 6. That's negative 12x.
right.
How did that minus sign come up to be?
Because when you multiply a negative and a positive together, it's a negative number.
So what's
So negative 12 times x, negative 12x, negative 12 times 5 is going to give us negative 60.
Okay.
That was why I had that lost. I get
Right,
lost.
remember, negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a positive is also a positive. A negative times a positive number is a negative. Positive times a negative is negative.
Negative.
Then how do we get the weaker side? How do we know that 60 is the weaker side?
Because it subtracts 60.
From where? From the 144?
Subtraction is weaker than multiplication. Remember order of operations. That's your friend. You want to study that. If I was in regular class, I'd do a quiz on this. The order of operations, and since we're backtracking, we're going to start at the weaker operations. So addition and subtraction are the weaker ones. And so that's why we're starting at the subtract 60 and doing the opposite operation from there. All right, so now that we've done that part, what will be our next step?
Add 144 plus 60.
Okay, what would that be?
204.
Okay, 204 is equal to?
12 minus negative 12x.
Negative 12x. And last step for us to do here.
Divided by negative 12.
Right, that's a multiplication. When you have the number and the variable together like that, it's multiplication, opposites division. So well done. And what we do to one side of the equation,
Do to the other.
do to the other. And what would 204 divided by negative 12 give us?
Negative 17.
Negative 17. And you can always check your answer by substituting back into that. Negative 17 plus 5. It's going to give you negative 12, and negative 12 times negative 12 will give you positive 144.
Okay, so I'm going to try and make sense of it, because for the first portion of it, we do the complete opposite, right? So that dealing with the 60 up in the top right corner. So we have minus 12x, minus 60. So if we're doing the opposite of that, that means the sign changes. Now we have a positive 60 and a positive 60 on the other side.
Did you take the trash from the restroom?
Now going to the next step with the 204 over minus 12. So wouldn't it, with my reasoning, wouldn't it have to be the opposite sign if we're following that same, or
so
what
remember,
happened there?
That negative 12 is basically like negative 1 times 12. So the opposite of that is to divide. So remember, when we do the opposite of negative 60, it's because we're dealing with addition and subtraction.
Okay.
When we deal with this negative 12, we're actually dealing with multiplication, because it's negative 12 times x.
Okay.
We're trying to break up the multiplication. It's all about the operations.
So that's where I went wrong with my signage.
Yeah, so it's the same number that's being multiplied. We're multiplying by negative 12. So then the opposite of multiplying by negative 12 is to divide by negative 12.
Got you. Okay.
Right? The opposite of negative 60 is to add 60. So it's all about the operations.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And that's a great question, because that does catch a lot of people. They think from the addition and subtraction, logically,
why don't we change the sign?
Says, yeah, why don't we do it there? But it's because we're dealing with the operations.
Okay. Thank you.
opposite operations. You're welcome. I'm glad you asked that question. So hopefully that clarifies for anyone else. I did get a few positive 17s in there. And if that's the reason why you're doing that, hopefully the answer to Jacob's question clarified it. All right, any other questions dealing with number 12?
Mr. Ray, is it okay to say we always want the variable to stand by itself at the end?
Yes, that's the whole purpose. We're trying to get the variable to be a positive variable by itself. So 1x, not negative x, but positive x, just by itself, positive x, yes. All right, so the rest of the ones that are similar to that, as you can see down here, you could be doing that over the weekend. I was hoping to get even more covered today, so I want to move faster. So you see other problems you can try. We're going to go back up, and one more thing, two more things we need to go over. Let's see, which one should I do first? Let's start off with number 2. So number 2 can cause a little headache for some, but not if you are following the instructions and you understand the math operations. So I'm just gonna throw you guys out in the water. Go ahead and try number 2. Use the arsenal that you have. The arsenal that you have is you understand operations and how to do them. You understand integers. You understand the order of operations and how to do it backwards. So go ahead and try number 2.
Oh boy.
Don't stress either. Say, oh yeah, this is a good challenge. I like this.
-6.
Mr. Ray, did you see my answer?
Yeah, I sent you back an answer. Did you see it?
Oh, okay.
Well done. All right, those, I had about 3 or 4 people get that correct. So if you did, go ahead and try number 4. It's very similar to number 2. All right, so don't want to spend too much time on this. Anyone having any issues with number 2?
Yeah, I get lost because of the division, the X.
Okay, well, I'm glad you realized that was division, because some people believe that will be the addition. So let's first just identify the 2 operations here. We have a -6, so that's 1, and 2, division. So which one do we start with? So which one would we start with? The subtraction or the division?
With the subtraction,
The subtraction. And what's the opposite of subtraction?
we add
And what are we adding?
6.
And what we do to one side of the equation?
We do the same.
All right, so
the
then
other.
the 6's will cancel. I'm left with x divided by 4 equals to what?
By 4.
Well, yeah, but what's on the right side? -5 plus 6 is
1.
Oh, well, plus 1.
No, I only have division left. And what's the opposite of division?
Multiplication.
And what am I multiplying by?
4.
4. And the 4 is canceled. And what I do to one side of the equation, I do to the
other.
I multiply the 1 by 4, and x will be equal to 4. And if you check that out, if you substitute it back into the original, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and -6 plus 1 is -5. So we have solved for the correct answer there.
So say it again, repeat it. Let me see. How do we have the 6 on both sides?
Say that again?
How do we have the 6 on both sides?
That's what we always do. What we do to one side, we do to the other.
Yeah, but
okay, instead of -6, we have put +6.
We add the 6. Remember, you start with the weaker operation. That's the -6. The opposite of -6 is to add 6. But what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other side of the equation. So we're adding 6 to both sides. Once we do that, the 6's on the left cancel out. and it leaves you with just x over 4. Let me just do it again. So I'm going to do it from the beginning. We have two operations here, negative and division. So subtraction and division. The weaker of the two is subtraction. So that's where I will start. I'm starting here because that's the weakest operation. So I do the opposite of -6, which is to do +6. But as we've been doing, what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other. If they are equal, right? Let's think about twins, right? If we have twins and you gave one twin a lollipop, the other twin's gonna be like, where's my lollipop, right? If you have twins, you have to get them both lollipops, right? Equal sign means you're gonna have to do the same thing to both sides, like a seesaw, teeter-totter, whatever you wanna call it, but you have to do the same thing to both sides. So this, on the left side, -6 + 6 cancels out, gone.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
I kind of got confused there because I thought it would have been -6 because of the plus sign that's next to it.
No, because that plus sign, remember I had said when we were collecting like terms, the sign belongs to the number to the right of it.
Oh, I see.
So make that a mental note for everyone. The sign is always on the left of the number. So the sign for 6 is negative. The sign for x over 4 is positive.
Okay.
So that plus sign belongs to the x over 4. But don't think that's what the operation is. The operation that's happening between x and 4 is division. Because that's what mixes up people sometimes too. They think, oh, I have to subtract to split the x into 4. But it's the operation that's happening between the two of them is division. All right, so once we do that, we are left with just x over 4 equals to -5 + 6 is 1. Now over here is the opposite of what we were doing before. Before we were multiplying and the opposite was division. Now we're dividing and the opposite is multiplication. And we multiply by the same number that is involved with the x. And that number is a +4. Now hopefully you remember fractions. When you multiply a whole number by a fraction, any whole number can be written as a fraction as over 1. We learned that we multiply straight across. So it's literally 4x over 4. But we also learned that we can cross cancel. So we just cancel diagonally. And so these are things that we've learned in Unit 1 at the beginning of this semester that I said to you will come back. What we do to one side of the equation, we do to the other. So we multiply the right side by 4 as well. And so x will be equal to 4. And Justine, Dorcas, and Jacob, those are all correct, what you sent me for number 4. So well done, all of you guys. All right, so x equals 4 for number 2. All right, I'll just do number 4, and then we'll do one more. Man, we got some other stuff. So we may not get to the word problems tonight, but that's fine. We do have to master the basic algebra as we go use the algebra like this for the rest of this semester. All right, I have a good bit of correct answers coming in for number 4, so this is really good. And hopefully your confidence is building that you can do it. All right, let's look at number 4. Where do we start for number 4?
At the 4?
At the 4, right? It's just 4. It's a +4. So what's the opposite?
A -4?
-4. What we do to one side of the equation, do to the other. So we're over here, -4. And the 4's cancel. And what's 0 subtract 4?
-4.
-4. -4 is equal to what's left on the right side, which is n over 5.
And divided by 5.
And divided by 5. And what's the opposite of division?
Multiply.
And what are we multiplying by? 5.
Or negative.
And what we do to the other side, one side, we do to the other. So yes, we multiply by the -4. And what's 5 times -4?
-20.
-20. That's correct.
That's what I got wrong.
And so n equals -20. So be careful of the signs. Once people start to learn how to solve, the biggest issue most people will have is the signs. That's just plain. Signs just throw everyone off at all levels. So be very careful of your signs. All right, now we're gonna try what happens when you get something like number 6. Can I clear this? I'll just leave it up. So go ahead and try number 6 if you are done with number 4. I'm not sure if anyone's copying, but go ahead and start number 6. See if you can do it.
I'm sorry, there's a lot going on. I'm still at work and I'm trying to pay attention to several things at the same time. What are we doing right now?
Number 6.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. Now, number 6, I haven't shown you how to do it yet, so you gotta really look at it carefully. It's testing your ability to use everything that we've learned. All right, let's see, I have an answer, it looks like. All right, Dorcas.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
I have to leave class early today.
Okay, all right, well, I was gonna say, hopefully you can see this one, but you can always check it on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Yeah, be safe and have don't forget to work on the worksheets that are sent here.
Okay, and then do we have any other homework besides that?
I doubt we're gonna make it to the book stuff, so it'll just be the 2 worksheets. The second one is gonna be a little bit more challenging, so see what you can do, have questions ready for Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, so I have a few answers that are in. They are correct. Any troubles with number 6?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what's the biggest trouble with
Yes.
number 6? Is it where to start?
Yes.
Okay, so that's normally the case for number 6. Number 6 gives us some challenge because we want to do the order of operations backwards, but it gives us a little issue here of how to do it. Now, what we want to do is think about what the order of operations not only is, but what does the parentheses actually mean. So when we have this 5 plus x divided by 6, it literally is a quantity being divided by 6. But because it's the whole quantity that's being divided by 6, not just the individual parts of the quantity, we actually treat this quantity as if it's one unit. So for instance, let's say that we assigned something to a household, like let's say it's an award. Everyone inside of that household gets an award. Then literally everyone inside of the household gets an award. And we treat them like one entity. So when we do this one, we actually do it like it's literally just the parentheses alone, just like we did here. We treat it like it's just an N. It's just a quantity. It's a united front. It's unified. And so when we start our operations, although we want to start and say that should be done last, which it actually is, we're going to actually start off with the division. So that means the division is going to go first because that's the only thing there. And then we get to the parentheses. Does that make sense? We do the
Sort of.
division first and then the parentheses. Although the parentheses is not there, remember when I introduced parentheses, I said is also known as grouping or a quantity. And a quantity is something that's getting something all at the same time. And in this case, 5 plus x is being divided. The whole thing is being divided. So since the whole thing is being divided, it is a quantity, and therefore it's the same as parentheses, and so therefore we will do it last. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah.
Ray, you talk of division. How do we divide? Because
Mr. Ray.
5.
I had a few people calling me just now, so I'm not sure who started first.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
I don't know, the way I kind of see like I'm doing like cross multiplication with that problem. I cannot multiply.
You can, that's
6.
technically what we're doing. You can cross multiply with it if that's easier to do.
Okay.
Yeah, but cross multiplication, the reason why we cross multiply comes from the order of operations. So because of the order of operation, we come up with the concept of cross multiplying. All right, but the reason why we cross multiply is because this whole thing is being divided. Let me just go back real fast. Don't overthink it. It's literally what we said. It's just going backwards. Remember parentheses when I did that, and actually right here, does everybody see that? I said another name for the parentheses or the concept is grouping. And grouping means when you do something to an expression at the same time. So when you look at, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, I just made a mistake and cleared everything. But if I go back, hopefully it's still there. I think I might have deleted it. Yeah. So anyhow, this is a group. And because it's a group, we're going to do this one last. When we do the order of operations, we're going to start off with the multiplication or division in this case, because that group we're going to get to last. Does that make sense? Because it's the parentheses.
Yes.
All right, so because of that, that means we're going to start with the division first. And what's the opposite of division?
Multiplication.
Multiplication of what number?
6.
6. And what we do to one side?
We do to the other.
And because there's a 6 there for the number, I'm just going to put a multiplication sign there. And we're going to cancel that. And 6 times -1 is -6. And now the quantity has been dispended, and we now have individuals we can work with. And now we can go ahead and solve even more. So what would I move now?
5.
The opposite of
And how
5.
do I do that? Yes, -5. What we do?
-5.
Right. And so what is -6 subtract 5?
-11.
-11. And that's our answer. So basically, to know where to start for that one is just that you start with the division, because the thing on top is a quantity or a group, or we could have just put parentheses there.
Okay, it makes more sense now.
All right, great. So let's try. I don't know if anyone was copying that, but
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
If you are finished, there's another one like that. I don't remember which one. I'm just going to move around. Number 7. So go ahead if you're finished and try number 7. It looks just the same. Trying to get that right back. Okay. Whoever's copying, if you guys could just let me know when you're done, and I'm gonna scroll down so you can see number 7 as well. But try number 7.
I'm done.
Very similar to this.
Mr. Ray.
Can you move it back up a little?
Oh.
Can't see it.
I forgot that we have that happening. Let me see if I can.
I think.
All right, and then.
Por 6. Por 6.
I can't see it now.
You still can't see it? You might have something in front of it. I put it in front of the screen.
No, okay, right now I can see it. It wasn't up.
Te cancelan. Luego me queda que es igual a 5 más X. Luego, por 5. ¿Así me echa? Oh, dang it. -5. Okay, this is +5. So -5. Se cancela. Queda que es -11. Es igual a -11. Chido, ¿verdad?
Mr. Ray, am I good?
I don't see your answer. Oh, I see it. Sorry. I had a few people send in answers at the same time. Okay, everyone who sent in an answer to me, you are correct. So Justine, Dorcas, Susanna, and Salvador, you guys are all correct. Well done.
I knew I was going to get one right today.
Well, it's one of the more difficult ones, so that's even better. Dina, that's correct as well. And William, that's correct. And Justine, did I say you? I can't remember if I said Justine, but Justine, that's correct if I didn't.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, all right, you're welcome. Okay, can I clear number 6?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, just for time's sake, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump on number 7. And we've basically covered all the basic types of solving equations that can pop up There are, of course, other things that can pop up, but these are the more basic ones. And let's go ahead and do number 7. Okay, so for number 7, it's V plus 9. And the middle of the screen is going to equals 8. And that looks like a semi-A. All right, so what do we do first here?
Look at the weaker side, which is addition.
We
No,
times by 3.
So we'll multiply.
yes, we're going to multiply, right? So we're going to treat that thing on the top. The numerator is a quantity.
Whole quantity.
And a quantity basically is parentheses. So what you could do when you notice a quantity is to put parentheses around it. And now that it has parentheses is the last thing that we're going to be doing. So we're going to start with the division of 3. And Alma and Jacob, those are correct. Well done. So we're going to multiply by the same number that is being divided by, which is 3. And what we do to one side of the equation, we must do to the other side. So the 3's will cancel. And once it cancels, you're doing away with what creates the quantity. So now it's just V plus 9 equals to 24. And then the last step would now be to
subtract by 9.
Subtract 9 on both sides. And what would that give us for V?
15.
15. All right, so you have now learned the very basics of solving equations. And literally the steps that we're doing can be used right up into calculus. When you're solving questions in calculus, the 2 operations that are added on, well, when we go up higher in algebra, we get exponents and radicals. And then after that, we have logarithmic equations and exponential equations. They are opposites of each other. And then if you go into trigonometry, you have the trigonometric ratios and their inverses. And then if you go up to calculus, you have derivatives and integers and integrals. And you do the same thing. You start at the weaker operations and you work your way up. So if you go higher up in math, you just get those new operations added on to the tier. They go above and you just keep adding up. And you do the same thing. Start at the weaker and do the opposites working your way. And if you learn that, you can solve just about anything that comes your way. There are other things that you might have to learn as we go, because sometimes you have to manipulate stuff. But just in their basic sense, you can do almost anything at any level. All right, we're going to stop there. We've covered everything for this worksheet. Make sure you practice the other problems that we did not cover over the weekend. We have a few more minutes. There's a secondary worksheet. And this worksheet's a little bit more challenging.
Was that the worksheet you just sent, Mr. Ray, or was that from last week?
The ones I just sent.
Oh, okay.
So I sent 2 at the beginning of class.
Yeah, I got him. I just haven't looked at him yet.
Okay, so the one that says 2-step equations, that was the one we just done. Now we're working on the multi-step equations. With multi-step, I mean, they can get multi, but basically you just want to practice understanding all of the stuff that we have done. So you see it could get a little bit complex. So let's start with the more challenging ones. Let's start at number 20.
Why not?
So we're going to go with number 20, and you can start it. I'll give you a few moments to start it before me, and then I'll begin it. This is where George's question about collecting like terms with algebraic expressions came in. I said, well, we're going to get to it, but I'll just show you real fast. So if you remember what we did when George asked that question, very similar here, where you might have to collect like terms, you might have to distribute, right? You might have to do all that stuff with the order of operations and then start to solve. So for this part here is basically 2 steps. Your first step is to simplify. Once you simplify it, then you can go about solving. Remember, to solve, you're going to need just 1 x. So you got to simplify down so that you don't have all these x's. We have what, 1, 2, 3 terms with x's, 4 terms with x's in there. You just want one term that has an x. Now, I don't know the answer off my head, so in an answer like this, I have to work out. I might be able to do it in my head, but all right. All right, so what would be the first thing we should do?
Collect like terms.
Okay, we could do that, but there's only one place where I could collect like terms right now. Which side is that?
On the after the on the right side.
All right, the right side is the only place I could do that right now. Negative 4x subtract 8x is how many x's?
12.
Close.
Minus 12.
Right, minus 12x.
So let us go back again.
Did I hear somebody say something?
Yeah, I said that. How do we get it? Let me go back again through. Okay, to simplify, we have minus negative 5, the parentheses 1 minus 5x plus 5 parentheses minus 8x minus 2 equals to minus 4x minus 8x. How do we have, where do we have the 12x?
Okay, so Jacob had said we could start by simplifying the right side. So we simplified right here. Negative 4x subtract 8x is negative 12x. So we just simplified the right side, but now we need to do the left side as well. And so who remembers how we can start off with that?
Parentheses?
Yeah, and what do we do with the parentheses?
1 minus
Multiply.
negative
Multiply, right? How are we multiplying with these parentheses?
Negative 5
What's on
times
the outside
1.
of it?
Ah, right. So what on the outside, we're going to multiply. So yes, as was just stated, negative 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5x, which would be what?
Negative 25x.
Not negative.
Positive 25x.
Positive 25x.
Yeah.
And then we have to do the same thing over here. What's 5 times negative 8?
Negative 40x.
Negative 40.
Negative 40x. And then 5 times negative 2.
Negative 10.
Negative 10.
Plus 10.
Negative 10. There's a positive 5 times a negative 2, so negative 10. All right, now what we want to do now, we want to have all the like terms on one side. Remember, when we're solving, we end up with x on one side and a number on the other, which means we need to have all the x's on one side and all the numbers on another side. And it doesn't matter which side. Your choice is yours. Some people would choose the left, some people choose the right. It doesn't matter. It all works out the same. So, which side do you want the axis to be on, the left or the right?
Left.
Okay, both of you said left, so left it is. So I'm going to bring the 12x over. How do I bring that 12? I'm bringing the whole term now. I'm not trying to separate the 12 and the x. That's what you have to think, right? This is act like it's real life, like you're really trying to move things around. I'm not trying to separate the 12 and the negative 12 and the x. I'm actually trying to move the whole term. And the term is negative 12x. So when I move that term, I need to do the opposite of that. And what is that?
It becomes a positive.
Positive 12x. So I'm moving the whole term. We're not separating the term. Actually, I should have simplified. I forgot I had 2 in there. So let me just do one more step first before I move it. Because I was going to do it, but then that would throw people off. So the first thing I want to do is just combine the like terms on the left. That just makes it easier. I would have done it in my head, but that would have threw off a lot of people. So we're going to just simplify the 25, subtract 40x. And if you do that, we're going to get negative 15x in the middle. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move my x term over. And so we're going to say plus 12x on the right side, and then also on the other side of the equation. But where should I write it? Where do you think I should put the plus 12x?
Under the -15x?
Right. The collecting like terms still applies. Remember, everything we learn applies and continues on applying, no matter what level of math you're at.
Okay.
So over here on the right side, it cancels out. And over here, we add -12 plus 12x. And that's going to give us -3x. I'm running out of space, so see how I'll do that. I might take it to the left side. We have -5 subtract 3x minus 10 equals to 0, right? Because those canceled out to 0.
-5.
Now I have two options I could do here. I can either collect the -5 and the -10. I'm just trying to decide based off of space. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna collect like terms. I have a -5 and a -10. What would that be if I collected the like terms?
-15.
Positive
-15. Right, collecting like terms is adding and subtracting, so that's -15. Now I want to have the x's on one side and the numbers on one side. And we always want a positive x. So the very fact that we have a -3x means I want to move the -3x to the other side to make it positive. And let's see if I could fit it here. So we do I'm trying to move the whole term. I'm not separating the terms. I'm moving the whole term. So I'm going to say plus 3x on one side of the equation. And what I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other. On the left side, this cancels out. And I'm going to write the rest over here. So I'm going to have -15. -15 is equal to 0 plus 3x is just 3x. And now how do I get the x by itself?
We do the opposite of.
Divide.
So we divide by the same number, which is 3. And what we do to one side of the equation, we do to the other. And so -15 divided by 3 will give us -5. So x will be equal to -5. All right, so for this part of the worksheet, you're going to simplify and then solve. And so everything you know about simplifying, you just simplify it so it's easier so that you can solve. If you try to solve it first, you're going to be confused. You have to simplify it first. That's the only way you're going to be able to solve. So you got to make it easier to work with. That's why we call it simplifying it. And then once you get there, solve it. Now you could check this, but because that's so long, it's not going to check out nice. So when you check your work, just scroll down to the bottom of the screen. I mean, you can check it. It's just that it's going to take some. I'll just show you because you do want to practice checking. Did anyone need that?
No. Let me take a picture.
Okay, perfect. Just to show you, if I wanted to check my answer, we got -5 for x, and this allows me to practice substitution. If I was to substitute my value for x, which was -5, but you see why I said checking this would take some time. I'm just going to do the left side. I think I could fit it. -4. This is okay. All right, so on the left side, if I was to check this, we have -5. This is a check. We're checking it, checking our answer. We have -5 times, well, inside the first quantity, -5 times -5 is going to be +25, so that'd be 1 plus 25. And you could put this right in your calculator. You could just type it in as you see it, and your calculator would do the left side for you. And then we have 5 times -8 times -5 is going to give us +40, subtract 2. And then on the right side, -4 times -5 is +20. And then the -5 times the -8 would be +40. So that means on the right side, we should get 60. And by the time we're finished, on the left, we should get 62. 60 as well. So 40 subtract 2 is 38. And what's 5 times 38? 5 times 38 is 190. And then on the left side, 1 plus 25 is 26. And so -5 times 26 is -130. And if we add those two together, -130 plus 190 is 60. And because the check works out, we know for a fact that when we solved that equation to x equals -5, we got it correct. Now, next week, we're going to learn how this applies to real life questions. Because believe it or not, in a real life situation, you can get something like that come up. And that's what you're going to see with the GED. Now, the GED questions are mostly real life scenarios, which means they're going to give you a real life situation and you have to either formulate the equation or formulate the equation and then solve it. So once we learn and master solving it, it's going to make it easier to do the word problems. All right, any questions with that? What we just done with number 3. We have 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. I'm going to do another one here. And remember, you're going to work on both of these worksheets between now and next week. Let's do number 17 because that has a lot of negatives there. All right, so with this one, first you want to bring in those negative signs. We've done stuff like this in the past, last week to be exact. So that negative comes in. So we have -1. Remember, simplify, first step. So first simplify and then solve. That's always the case. It's just that those other ones were already simplified for us on the first worksheet. So we have -1. Remember, we talked about this before, is technically a -1 on the outside. So -1 times 1 is -1, and -1 times 7x
minus
is
7x.
-7x. I forgot about the left side. So that's a -7x. Then you're going to multiply this one in, that -6. -6 times -7 is going to give us positive, what's that, 42?
Yeah.
And then -6 times the -x is going to give us positive 6x. And I'm sorry about the pen, but for some reason, my left side of the screen is becoming less and less responsive. Like it won't even feel it. All right, so now we have -1 subtract 7x plus 42 plus 6x. We can collect the like terms, so that's -7x and the positive 6x. And if we do that and collect the like terms, what would that give us? For the x's, it's going to give us -x, right? -7x plus 6x. And then my other like terms is positive 42 and -1. Remember, we were practicing that at the beginning of algebra. -1 plus 42 is going to give us 41. So that means we're going to have 41 subtract x equals to 36. Now, I'm looking at the time. The shortest way to do this would be to leave the negative sign. So I'm going to show you an alternate way, and hopefully it don't throw you off. But we're going to subtract the 41. We're going to want all the numbers on the same side. The 41s cancel. We're left with just -x equals. And 36 subtract -41, or just subtract 41, sorry, is going to be -5. Now we have two negatives here, and there's a little trick. You just change the signs of both of them. And I'll explain it more. But basically, if you have a negative here, just change the sign of both numbers. And what we're really doing, we're dividing both sides by -1. So therefore, we have x is equal to +5. And just to make sure I'm correct, hopefully I didn't make any mistakes there. We scroll down to number 17, and yes, x equals 5.
Yes, you're right.
All right, perfect. I should be right. But yeah, so x is equal to 5 there. Now, remember, 2 simple steps for this part of the worksheet. Simplify, doing stuff we've already done last week, collecting like terms, distribute the numbers into the parentheses. Once you do that, you're going to be set up with an equation that we've been dealing with all this time, like this. Well, I'm trying to circle it. Like this, right? So you simplify it. Once you simplify it, you get down to a regular equation, and then you can solve it. So as long as you remember to collect like terms and distribute, don't mix up your negative numbers, shouldn't be a hard task. Now,
Mr. Ray.
Yes.
I'm trying to understand right here why we got 41 plus -6 because we got the like terms, right? So -1
plus
plus 42, and then we did -7x
plus 6x.
plus 6. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So please work on these 2 worksheets over the weekend and the week up into Tuesday. If I don't get any questions, I'm assuming you know how to do it, right? And if you have to go, I totally understand. I'm just giving a last minute closer summary. Remember, if you don't study, you can't learn it, right? It's not that you can't. It sounds a bit harsh, but it's not that we can, it's that we want. And the reason why we want sometimes is just because of our scheduling. And so you have to make time. You have to like say, you know what? As much as I want to watch this television show or this movie, I just have to turn it off. I have to learn this. And I'm pretty sure all of you want to pass this and be done. You don't want to be like, I had a student who's taken a class with 2 different teachers already. I think 4 times between those 2 teachers, and then 3 times with me. But that student skips class one day and then leaves class early, doesn't study, doesn't do the homework, and they're just taking the class over and over. They're becoming a career student. You don't want to do that. You want to set time. You want to make time, not find the time, not like, man, I wish I had time. No, I'm making time because I want to pass this test the first time. And if it's not your first time, I want to pass this test the next time. And you can do it. Just like how in the first worksheet, you guys like, I can't do this. And then by the time I was finished, everyone was sending me correct answers. I can get correct answers by Tuesday, but it determines your attitude. The way you approach it determines how well you can get through it.
Mr.
So
Ray.
approach it with a positive attitude. I can do it. I'm gonna beast this. I'm gonna pass it. I've got it. And if you need help, send me a message. Yes, Jacob.
How do we end up with minus x equals minus 5? And they both became positive at the bottom.
Okay, so what I basically did, I skipped it. I said it out loud, but I didn't write it. I times both sides by -1. Because remember, what you do to one side, you can do to the other. So you can manipulate it.
Oh, because it would be -1x, which is not written there, but that's what it would be.
There you go.
Okay.
And what you do to one side, you do to the other. But I didn't have the room and the time, so I just said, just trust me on it. But I'm glad you got it. So that's what we done.
-1.
All right, and if you were to substitute that back in, you see that you would get 36 on the left side.
-1.
All right, I try to choose the 2 hardest ones, so it should make it easier for you to do the other ones by comparing what we did for number 17 and what we did for number 20. But please make the time to do it. I want you guys to pass the test in December. I'm pretty sure you do as well. Practice, you can do it.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Ray. You have a good night, guys.
Thank you for your attention. You guys be safe. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Enjoy your families.
You too.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Thank
Have a
you.
blessed weekend.
Yes, you as well. Blessings to you guys. Have a great one. You're welcome.
Have a good night, Mr. Ray. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Good night.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. All right. And anyone else still copying this? All right. So George and Sergio, I'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ray.
You're welcome.